All right, we are live once again, another Tuesday night. These weeks go by super fast, I'll tell you. So tonight I'm super excited after spending a day and a half or so out in Baltimore a couple weeks ago. This was one of the things I wanted to get. I wanted to get this scheduled pretty quickly, just with some things coming up, and we'll have Brian, talk a little bit about some things going on here pretty soon. But I wanted to do this. We all had a absolutely fantastic time. It was just something, again, I wanted to get done, get you guys. I wanted people to know a little bit more. I knew some stuff going into it, but I really gained much more of an appreciation for what it is that Sagamore, has to offer, their whiskeys, all of that. And I wanted you guys to kind of, learn a little bit more about Brian, everything going on, with Sagamore. And I think, again, you guys will get a much better appreciation for the brand and the people behind it. And that's one of the things that's super important to me. So let me go back real quick, say hi to everybody that was in the chat. First off, my man Cam Lochner. Cam, how's it going, buddy? Good to always see you. Sugar Kitty, good to see you. Roy, how's it going, buddy? What else we got here? Kelsey, as always. Kelsey, good to see you. Johnny T, John, Christopher David, Chris, good to see you. My man Darrell, how's it going? David, how's it going, David? Deborah C, Kenny, Matt, happy belated birthday, buddy. Whiskey. Oh no, I was just thinking of somebody else. How's it going, Donnie? How are you? What else we got here? Big Vic, Trevor, how's it going? What else we got here? Michelle, good to see you. My man Dusty, there he is. I knew you'd pop in here. Dave, Dwayne, Trevor, good to see you. All right, Tim, Maddie, Big Sexy, ADHD, how's it going, buddy? Alex, my brother from the north. Tim Evans, Brett, good to see you. Adriana, Whiskey Mountains. Ever anybody hasn't seen her channel, please go subscribe. Junik, good to see you. Miller, how's it going? Michelle, Z-Man. All right, I think I'm all caught up. So here's what I'll do. I'll bring Brian on here in a second. We'll get to know him a little bit more, know a little bit more about the brand. We'll talk about some of the whiskeys, things coming up, some big things coming up for them real soon. So rather than waste any more time, Richie, how's it going? We'll get going with this, and we'll bring on the man of the hour. So there he is. Brian, how are you, sir?
Good. Yourself? How are you?
Not
Scott?
Not bad. Good to see you. It's always a little weird because you talk to people for a few minutes and then I introduce you as though I haven't even talked to you all night long yet. So it's like, hey, how are you doing? So first and foremost, I've got to go back a couple weeks ago. Thanks for hosting us and having us out there to the distillery and the farm and all of that. I mean, I think I speak for those guys. We had an absolute blast. It was hands down first class. So, thank you for all of that.
Well, thanks for coming. I'm embarrassed to say that I only really stumbled upon this community, in spring of 2020. I'm sad to say, but like this community and all these different channels that I enjoy watching, you guys have made the last couple of years much, much better, much more enjoyable. So, and I thought, what better way to thank a few of you to get you to Baltimore and kind of see a little bit about what we're doing. So thanks for making the trip. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, throughout the night, I think this is what I really wanted people to do, is get much more of an appreciation for, what you do, at the distillery, the products, all of that. I mean, a lot of things really resonated with a lot of us as, when we were out there and got to see all of this. But I want people to get a little bit of an idea of really what it is you guys have, kind of going on. So, all right. So little icebreaker here for you. Okay. This is going to be a little bit of a desert island thing. However, there's a little bit of a twist. I shouldn't even say desert island. This island is not only hot, but also cold. Okay. So with that being said, you get one whiskey that you're allowed to drink in not only the hot, but the cold. One whiskey, that's all you get. What is that whiskey? So you have to take into consideration proof, and let's say it can't be Sagamore, okay? we'll give you. Well, okay, here's I'll give you this. We'll let you, once you answer with something else, if there's another one, I'll then let you answer with a Sagamore as a 1B type of answer. But if you can have one whiskey in both hot and cold, what is that whiskey? You guys in the comments, let me know below. What is that one whiskey?
Is price availability all?
It doesn't. It's whatever you want. If you have the run at anything you want for both hot and cold situations, what is that whiskey that hits the mark for you?
Golly,
I know it's
oh, man. Like we just got on here that we drink a whiskey first.
It's a tough one. You don't have to answer it now. You can give it some thought as we go through some things too.
I'm a little torn. I'll be honest. I can't get the hard to get stuff. So I'm used to just everyday stuff. So I kind of fall back on maybe Pikesville. If I had to do a bourbon, I'd do a Four Roses single barrel or something, I'm pretty easy, I'm a little torn, but those are probably not great answers. Rare Breed is probably up there or just even the Wild Turkey 101 Rye. All those,
there is ultimately there is no wrong answer. It's whatever you want it to be. So it's all of that. But all right, so let me ask you this. So if it can be a Sagamore, what would that be? If there's anyone who's familiar with that, what would that one Sagamore be for you?
Oh man, I might have to go. It's between double oak or potentially our cognac finish.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right. I can totally get down with both of those. I've had it. Well, I've got the double oak. I've had the cognac, but I can no wrong answer. Those are solid ones right there. So, all right, Deborah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Also, she says she's heading to Sagamore on Friday and Saturday.
I will see you there.
There you go.
Come find me.
Might be some things going on there on Saturday that we can talk a little bit about too. So
yeah.
All right, let me ask you this. Let's kind of go back to before Sagamore, and I guess if you don't mind, give everybody a little kind of the backstory of how it all kind of started for you.
Yeah, it's a heck of a journey. To be honest, it's one of those things I think people always expect that I came from the business or the industry earlier. Sometimes people are like, oh, did you work at makers or what's your experience with your background? And before I started with help with Sagamore, I owned my own backpacking and kayaking company in the Grand Canyon. And so I owned a backpacking and kayaking company in the Grand Canyon, Southern Utah, Grand Staircase, Escalante, Yosemite, Canyonlands, Moab, all those areas. And I did that for about 14, 15 years. So I grew up in Maryland and DC. When I graduated high school, I wasn't really cut out for college, if you will. And so I just ended up moving out west and moved to Lake Tahoe, then Breckenridge, Telluride, Steamboat, Crested Butte, and kind of bounced around for a while. And then eventually ended up in Flagstaff, Arizona, where I spent about 20 years of my life. And ended up going to school, which was great. Had a wonderful time. And in school, I decided to write a business plan on starting an outdoor backpacking tour company and a retail gear shop too. So we had a gear shop too that we rented skis and snowboards and sold sleeping bags and sleeping pads and hiking boots and all that sort of stuff and a guide service. So I did that for a really long time and it was really, really incredible. Absolutely loved it. And I always said I would never do anything else until my partners reached out to me one day, some friends of mine from high school and middle school, and said, they've been talking about starting a whiskey distillery for a long time and eventually said, we really, really want to do this. Are you interested? And I said, yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. So, I ended up traveling back to Baltimore to learn about it. And I didn't realize, Baltimore had this amazing history of distilling that goes back, 158 years before Kentucky was even a state. And so kind of once I got to know the history and the vision behind it, I was pretty much sold. And I went back and sold my business to one of the first guys I ever hired. He's still running strong on it, which is really cool and exciting. And then came back and picked up and moved back to Maryland where I hadn't lived since 1990. So moved back here in 2013, and decided to start Sagamore Spirit. And so I don't come from the industry. I'm more of, I guess, kind of just an entrepreneurial background. So one of the first things I did is after getting settled in a little bit, is went and found somebody who really knew what they were doing within the industry. And I ended up teaming up with Larry Ebersold. So I was really fortunate enough to find him, the godfather of Rye Whiskey. And he and I worked very, very closely for several years, and we still work very closely today. So,
well, what a man to latch onto for, the knowledge that he's got, with all those years that he's got under his belt to be able to craft and assist you and guide you guys, along the way. That's, I mean, you and I and all of us, we had talked about it briefly when we were out there. I mean, it just, what a plethora of information and knowledge somebody like that has, to be able to lean on somebody, and help you, kind of guide you, into where you guys are now. I mean, look at where you are. So, I mean, to take all that and run with that, it's pretty impressive with what it is you guys have done. So,
well, thanks. The thing started with Larry too, is I said, Larry, this has got to be a nightmare for you coming in and somebody who has zero background, zero experience in this, and he goes, actually, it's ideal because you don't know enough to even remotely question anything I'm saying. And so the worst is when you get somebody who's been doing it for a year or two and they think they already know everything, because that's when it gets interesting. So, I was smart enough to just shut up and listen to him, ask a lot of questions, but certainly listen to him. And I would say working with Larry is probably hands down one of the greatest things that has ever happened to me.
Well, I mean, that's, I mean, I think for a lot of people, starting out something, getting the right people, not just a body or somebody that, thinks they know what's going on, but I mean, to be able to get somebody like that who knows so much, I mean, I think it's such a critical thing really in any business that applies to anybody you're going to lean on for, guidance in whatever business. I mean, getting somebody who knows the craft is, I mean, the most, invaluable. So, all right. So from Marty, Whiskey Knows, he is asking, do you know Jacob Allen and Robin Miller from Steamboat Springs? Those names sound familiar.
No, I don't. God, I lived there in 92, 93. Would they have been there then? But I was there in 92, 93. I worked at Ski House, which is a little ski shop, was a Conoco gas station also, and a ski rental place, and skied every day. And then I tuned skis there at night.
Sounds like a good gig.
It was a great gig, man. Like, the locals, downstairs was at the convenience store. We sold beer, and we were at a liquor store. It was like this one-stop shop, and, locals, you wax their skis and you tune their skis for free. So by the end of the night, we were sitting on cases and cases of beer because, they bring up like, hey, no charge. We got you covered, and then they bring them up and like drop a 6-pack, 12-pack. And like, so you never had to pay for beer, which is pretty amazing. And the first thing I did, because I would work in the summers for a crabbing business, I would go there and just put all my cash down on the ski pass and then pay all my rent for the season. So once the rent was paid and the ski pass was bought, I just had food and beer to kind of worry about and a little gas money here and there.
That's okay. It's you kind of think about the simpler part of life, and you think about all that. You're like, man, that sounds pretty darn good at times. I'll tell you. There's something. Totally. There's always something to be said about the simple part of life at times. So, all right, Gary. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate that. Gary says he loves the Calvados. Yeah, that was. I had some samples of that before. I think I even had it when we were out there, but it was just an incredible finish. I absolutely love that one as well. So, David, thank you very much. Appreciate it. He needs his first bottle of Sagamore. He's in it to win it tonight. So hopefully you're the man. All right, let me ask you this. So let's go back like right before Sagamore became a whiskey brand. What was like some of the inspiration? I know you had some of the partners and friends and all of that, but what was it to them and you that made them decide, hey, we want to get something going? I'm always interested to hear like kind of how the brand, got kind of up and running.
Yeah. So there's kind of three of us, I guess, if you could say, are involved in it. And so one of them is there's Bill, Kevin, and then myself. And Kevin is kind of I would say, the true visionary behind it. And so Kevin's had a fair amount of success in his life. And one of the first things he did when he was with his success is go out and buy Sagamore Farm. And so he was really into all things Maryland, really liked the traditions that we had here, and just loved he started his own businesses and just loved manufacturing and things like that. And you've been to Sagamore Farm now, Scott. You remember standing on the hill and you see those rolling green hills everywhere, and the fire pit up top where you could hang out and drink a whiskey and smoke a cigar. Well, Kevin was doing exactly that. Was sitting around, smoking a cigar, drinking a whiskey, and someone said, "Yeah, exactly. You're sitting up there and looking down." And someone said, "Hey, have you ever thought about growing grapes and starting a vineyard?" And he's like, "I'm not really a wine guy. I'm a whiskey person, a whiskey guy, And someone said, kind of piped up and said, "Oh, Maryland used to be famous for whiskey, namely rye whiskey, because of especially because of the limestone springs like you have here on the farm." And Kevin kind of like light bulb, like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I had no idea. He was born and raised in Maryland, didn't know we had this great history of distilling in Maryland, And so somebody gave him the brief history of, 15, 1600s, it was rum, but eventually, we made the switch over to rye in the early 1700s, and then it kind of flourished from there. And then, we have the Whiskey Rebellion, and the Whiskey Rebellion ends up displacing and moving families out of Maryland, like Jacob and Mary Beam from the Beam family, and Basil Hayden and so forth, who started distilling in Maryland. And, in 1910, we had 44 distilleries in Maryland, all making rye whiskey, kept making it through Prohibition. One of the reasons we're called the Free State, and then switched over to ethanol production to help support World War II, and never made much of a comeback from there. And then the last distillery closed its doors in the early 1980s and sold that name off to Heaven Hill, and that's Pikesville Rye. And I think that was just kind of like this aha moment, like, how do you have something so cool as like whiskey making and this great history and this unbelievable job creator and so forth. And I think that's so, this is, I want to say around 2009, 2010, this kind of light bulb went off in his head, and he has a real job. So he kept trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And he one day called me up and said, "Any interest in selling your businesses and actually doing this? I really want to start this whiskey distillery." And I said, "Yeah, I'm in." And so I ended up picking up the family and selling everything. And the moving trucks didn't come and pick up our stuff. So we literally sold everything and got on a plane and moved to Baltimore and started fresh, man.
You're all in. You're all in.
It's been a whirlwind ever since.
Well, and that's awesome. I mean, it's always fun to hear. I think so many times, we hear all of the glamorous parts of like the whiskey industry, but I think always getting a little bit of the story of the hows and the whys are always, very interesting. I mean, you don't come from a lineage of Nose or Beams or, any of those kind of guys, so it's always really interesting, considering where you are now, how it all began. And to be honest, I think the area where you guys are, I mean, it's kind of like rye country. It's like, it would be such a shame for this to not be happening, if you know what I mean. Like, it's an important part of whiskey history.
Yeah, no, like we see so many avenues from here. We're trying not to get distracted with trying to do too much at once, because you end up not doing anything really well at all. But, it's amazing how when we got here, one of the first things we want to do is really start subsidizing and growing and buying local grain. And one of the things Maryland, actually, I shouldn't say this to a guy from Wisconsin, but we used to actually have a lot of dairy farms, and like that was like a big thing for us. And I would imagine you guys feel it up there too. Dairy's not what it once was. A lot of those farms are gone now. And so, long story short, we ended up, saying like nobody wants to grow rye grain in Maryland. So how do we partner up with these guys and share some of this expense and really kind of create this, grain to glass program where we can really kind of help control everything start to finish and, make sure we're getting the best grain humanly possible. And so we started with one farmer and said, why we'll buy the seed up front. You'll have no out-of-pocket expense. And, we'll just hold you to a quality standard. Let's learn together. We'll knock out the middleman. You can actually make money on this instead of just if it was tilled into the earth where no one can actually use it for distillation, and actually really start to kind of build something long-term sustainable, with us and partner up. And first year we ended up growing 50,000 pounds and it worked out really well. Next year we grew about 150,000 pounds and expanded to a second farmer. And then this last year we ended up converting Sagamore Farm to what used to be more famous kind of a little bit for horse racing, but really end up now kind of switching gears towards agricultural to support the whiskey business, and so we ended up harvesting about 1 million pounds of Maryland grown rye. We'll grow 100% of our own non-GMO corn this year, and really kind of creating something where we can actually control it from start to finish, help replace some of those dairy farms that are lost. And then, like you talk about supply chain issues, well, we don't have any supply chain issues for our grain now. And it's great having that control. And we invested in silos and farms. We got a grain cleaner we invested in, mills on certain farms, and just trying to build out something wonderful. Now we also partnered up with the University of Maryland Department of Agriculture, growing 5 different varietals of rye and really trying to understand the different yields and flavor notes and components that you can get from these different ones, and just trying to learn as much as humanly possible. So it's been fun as hell. And you're right, like Maryland, like you said, this is a great area for it, but it actually wasn't happening. So for us to kind of come in and hopefully bring another thing to the local area, local communities where they might be able to replace other businesses or have different options. And now we're getting other farmers wanting to call us and trying to continue to scale up. And, we've always agreed that we would set a price that worked for everybody, and then we would buy everything. But, we don't want to go too big too quickly. We want to make sure we really understand it and we don't end up having any type of issues or quality issues. That's our number one thing. So chip away. 4 years, we've gone from 50,000 pounds to 1 million pounds. So still growing pretty quickly, but not getting out of control.
Well, I mean, and I think all of that stuff that you touched upon, and it was a lot, but I mean, I think that's very important. I mean, all around, I mean, it's just, I mean, the amount of people you're helping and keeping everything as much grain to glass, keeping farmers, going, making sure that everything is coming from as local as possible and really keeping it a Maryland type of rye, so to speak. I mean, I think that's in itself is already an important thing. I mean, Maryland rye is a thing. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So to have all of that and to continue to, push the envelope, keep things high quality, produce a great product. It's a great thing for not only you, us as the consumer, it all translates into, what we all hope is a great bottle of whiskey. So, I mean, that's important for you guys to do that part of it. Again, we don't all see everything going on in the background, and this is the important part for me, is that people understand that it's not just a bottle of whiskey. There's a lot of things that happen from, grain to glass, and to know some of that history and what it is you guys do and the people you utilize, the grains you use, that it's an important thing for people to understand. So.
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to come on your amazing channel and just kind of join in the conversation.
Well, I appreciate, and I'm glad, and I'm really glad outside of all of that, guys like you with the whiskey brands, kind of dive into this community, because I think it's a really nice extension that allows us as the whiskey fan and consumer and geek or whatever you want to call it, to be able to have a conversation with someone like you, because, I guess it's kind of one of those things where we look at a lot of people who own the whiskey brands as, kind of sports figures a little bit for people. Like, you want to meet and talk to these people and find out everything that's going on, especially when you enjoy a whiskey. So getting the knowledge and understanding of what is going on is important to, I think, a lot of people, especially the people, in the chat and everything, and people who will watch the replay. I think people will really, really benefit from all of this. So,
well, I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm embarrassed to say, but I really kind of discovered, all these wonderful channels out there, in spring of 2020, and I've always been impressed with how much I've learned from listening to you guys. And ultimately for us, you can make a whiskey, but you got to know who wants to buy it and who's going to buy it and who the consumer ultimately is. And the ability to come on your show and listen to what folks are liking and not liking. And you want to be careful, like, right. Our whiskey's not going to be for everybody. And we make 3 or 4 whiskeys consistently. And I just hope that you like one of them maybe. But like the ability to come on and listen to what the consumer's looking for and what they see in it and how they perceive value and things along those lines. This is the greatest, I hate to say it, but this is the most amazing place for us to come in. And so I feel just the opposite. Like, I'm like, I want to listen to your show. I want to listen to your show. I want to hear what saying. I want to see what they're saying in the chat. And I love how people are so honest with each other, and in the ability to share that knowledge and really understand, like, hey, I know what really good value is, or maybe not, but they'll share that information with each other. And then on top of that, be able to make decisions. And sometimes I've done it. Sometimes I'm willing to pay a little bit more because I'm just really curious, or I really did love that product and I'm willing to pay more. And others, saying like, I'm not sure I'd pay it, but if you got this price, and it helps us know where like kind of the elasticity is with folks, and where the perceived value is, and what you guys are like, what you're looking for. And, we can't do half of it, but like, it's certainly fascinating and really interesting to listen to you guys and appreciate the knowledge you guys share here.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely important. I can see where, getting that information on your end is critical, knowing what the people, want and what they're enjoying and all of that. So I can see that's important. So, like Will says, it's, like he found out not long ago, Wild Turkey was, getting rye from Germany. Now you're getting all your stuff from local. So somebody else who appreciates, someone doing something local. And I think that's important to support the people and the community, surrounding you. I mean, if you want people to support your business, and it goes both ways, where you support the people around you, it becomes a bit of a win-win for everyone. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, why don't we do this? Why don't we get into some of the whiskeys? We'll do, since it's something new, we'll go through kind of the flagship and the double oak and all of that. But I'm anxious for you to share a little something with the people that you've got going on with this guy in particular, if you don't mind. And I know, even being out there and trying it, before tonight, exactly, I want you to kind of tell everybody a little bit about, what that is and kind of the importance behind what that whiskey is for you.
Yeah. I will try not to ramble on too much, but if you don't mind, I'd love to kind of, like you said, kind of start with our core 3 products, our 3 diamonds, if you will. We do 2 mash bills. Every product we have is 2 mash bills. We do one that's 95% rye, 5% malted barley, and we age that 4 to 8 years, depending on the product. And we do one that we call our barely legal rye. It's 52% rye, 43% corn, and 5% malted barley. And we age that 4 to 8 years, depending on the product. And then every product we have has a blend of those 2. So you kind of get the typical rye spice and baking spices you might experience from the high rye. And then this kind of sweet, fruity floralness balance from that barely legal rye, creating something a little bit unique and different than what we consider to be Maryland style. And 1 second, my dog got trapped in here, and he's been in here for a little while now. He's decided he wants to go.
I know all about that. So yeah, I think you guys will really appreciate some of what it is that they're doing.
He'll be back.
He'll be back.
And then, we have our signature rye, which, for folks that newer to rye whiskey or want something low ABV, 83 proof, really something easy to sip. That's what that is. And that's kind of our true nod to Maryland style, if you will. And still stands up well in a cocktail. But folks that are seasoned whiskey drinkers, that might be more of a breakfast whiskey for them. And so then moving along, I think, you did an amazing review the other day of our double oak, and our double oak, which is actually 96.6 proof. We'll age the two straight ryes for about 5 years. We'll blend them together. This one we use a little bit more of the low rye, and then we put them into another new American oak barrel. This one we cut grooves down the inside of the staves, creates these waves inside the barrel, creates about 25% more surface area inside the barrel for the whiskey and the wood to make contact with. But instead of doing a heavy char and burning that off, we just do a toast, and then we'll do 18 more months inside there. So that's about 6.5-year-old rye by the time it's said and done. And then the cask strength is just the big brother to the signature. So easy enough, right?
Yeah, absolutely love it. It's probably one of my favorite ryes to sip on. And I know I told you this story, but your port finish was the gateway for my wife in getting really into whiskey and then wanting to drink more of my stuff. So I thank you and I curse you all at the same time. No, I appreciate that. I'm glad. And she always asks me when is there going to be more? I said, just be patient. It's coming. It's coming. So
it is coming. It's not anytime real soon, but it's coming. No. And so, but yeah, the signature is a blend of 4 to 6 year old rye. The double oak is about 6.5, and the cask strength is 4 to 7. And listen, I think we all know it's on the label and everything. You know, we started with MGP because we had that relationship with Larry, and it made a lot of sense. Like, let's start with MGP while we build out our distillery. And so we started contract distilling with them in 2016. Excuse me, that's when we launched. 2013. Really, kind of almost December of 2012, and then we had our distillery up and running in early 2017, and we've been doing all the distillation since then. But if you do the math on that, that means the whiskey that we've been making in Maryland is only about 4.5 years old. And as I mentioned, a lot of these products all have older whiskey in them than 4 years old. So our make is now going into the bottle. Our aged whiskey, as of this year, just as of a month ago, is part of the blend now. So when you hear 4 to 6, 4 to 7, that type of thing, that is Maryland made and Maryland aged. And then we'll spend the next couple of years, transitioning over to 100% Maryland aged, Maryland distilled, Maryland aged. And so, this is kind of a defining moment for our brand. It can be done well, and it can be done not well. And so that's, something we take incredibly serious. And you only get to do this once. So our number one goal is not to screw it up. That's pretty much where all the focus is don't screw it up. And so hopefully eventually you notice subtle differences that are pleasant and even more favorable to than the whiskey you drink today. But we're super happy that we've come this far. Yeah. And you should be. I mean, I think for me, it kind of started, honestly, a couple years back. Dan sent us that bottle of that port, or the port finish rye, and it was just super. I mean, it's crushable. Like, it's one of those things where you can just sit around a fire, whether it's inside, outside, just enjoy the heck out of it. And before you know it, that bottle is gone. It doesn't take long to go through some of that. But, just overall, I think what you're doing, and I was really kind of interested to hear that your ryes were a blend of a couple different mash bills. I didn't know that going into it. So I like the idea of kind of keeping the barley rye mixed in there with the 95.5 to really work with each other. You got the sweet and the spice kind of all going in there, and then a couple little interesting twists with the double oak and the finishing and things. So, I mean, I think that's a really cool idea to blend two of those kind of mash bills to create this, because you do get those components of this rye. There's definitely the sweet and the spice, but you're not like blown away with that big, heavy, like kind of rye bite. It's just very, very easy to sip on. So yeah, you nailed exactly what we're trying to do. So there's a couple of things. One, when you start contracting with MGP, you don't want to be another just MGP 95.5. At least we did not. I'm not. Whatever others may do, that's wonderful. And then that also doesn't necessarily speak to Maryland style rye from our understanding of what historically it was. Maryland was always kind of known as a little bit sweeter compared to Monongahela style. And for a few different reasons, whether it's, it just wasn't 100% rye mash bill. And so we're striving for this whiskey that still had these rye notes and tasted like a rye, but had this sweeter kind of floral roundness to it. And that's exactly what we're striving for. And so, and then, we get to play with them. Now we have multiple rye mash bills. And so, in the core products, we stay very consistent. In some of these reserve series and so forth, we have a little fun.
Yeah, I mean, and rightfully so. I mean, I think it kind of gives you that lane that allows you to kind of, play with, some different things. I mean, it's, getting kind of sometimes outside of the norm or the box and trying different things. I think that's an important thing. And sometimes some amazing creations have come from there being really no plan. I mean, I know it's not just like you guys aren't just running through the rick house and mixing and doing all these kind of crazy things, but at the end of the day, having those different things and the ability to do so, allows you that flexibility to maybe, hey, let's try this or let's try that. And, that's kind of a cool thing. So what's Steve say? Will we see label updates on products first distilled in Indiana and Maryland and eventually only distilled and bottled in Maryland?
Good, really good question. And quite a bit of a debate at the distillery. And the answer as of right now is not really. We've been on the market now for 5 years, and we've got a lot of marketing dollars behind these specific labels, and we're not so sure we want to walk away from them at this time. You'll see some subtle changes eventually, like the back of the labels obviously start saying distilled in Maryland and Indiana during the transition, and then eventually it says distilled in Maryland. But overall, nothing drastic. Now, we do have a product line that's quite a ways out still, that's going to be 100% Maryland grain, 100% Maryland oak barrels, things along those lines. Those are labels that haven't even been created yet, and a product line that we just kind of kick around and haven't even officially named. Some people have got a name in their head, and others got a different name in their head at the distillery. And it's so funny because we always say it's amazing how 6 years sneaks up on you. It's like, well, you got to kind of get ready. Like, is it going to be a different bottle? What's that label look like? What's the name of this series or this, this product line? What's the reasoning for it? Yeah. Why do you have to have it? And how does it complement your product line, but not cannibalize your product line? So there's just a lot going on. And, this is the fun stuff, putting all that kind of strategy together and working closely, obviously, with the distilling team on, where they see opportunity to make a really great whiskey and does that fit into our brand story?
Yeah. And it's interesting to always get that perspective, from brands as to what it is that's going on and whys and hows and all of that. I mean, we just see so often on a daily basis, do you like the whiskey? Do you not? What is it that you appreciate? But I mean, there's so much more, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. There's so much more that goes into just this stuff being in a bottle. I mean, all the years of planning and labels and everything that's going on with that. So, I mean, we appreciate, especially when we hear more about it, you really start to truly appreciate what it is. So, all right, let's do this. So we kind of have gone through a little bit of the core. You've got some finishing stuff. There was the tequila finish that you had. This guy, which is, I just sat down the other night with it to start doing some note taking, and I had to kind of pump the brakes. It was really easy to drink, and it's been, and I'm not just saying this, it's been probably one of my favorite ryes that I've had this year. I like it that much.
Wow, thank you.
So I think you've done a great job with this 8 year. And I think when we were there, I think there was some at the distillery. I don't know if there are any more of the 8 year or not. But if you're looking for it, go get it before it's gone. Trust me, it's a great rye whiskey. So
yeah, no, it's at the distillery, and it's slowly gotten out into markets. Like all these logistical issues that are out there with shipping and so forth. It's gotten out to the stores a little slower than we wanted to, but it's out there. It's not a huge release. It's about 400 cases, but 115 8-year-old rye, and so, like you said, it'll sneak up on you. That's for sure.
It's easy to drink for that proof. What was this, 114 or something?
114.9.
Yeah, I was tell you, that's one thing when you start to sip on it, you start looking for the proof right away, and then when you don't when you don't get nailed with all that ethanol, you know, you start looking at like, well, what's the proof of this thing? And then you're like, holy cow. I mean, even at 114, it's just a dangerously easy sipping rye whiskey. And this was not to even give it away, but, you know, in my review, I haven't released it or anything yet. But for me, I think personally, with a lot of these ryes that start getting into this kind of age, they start to develop a different profile. And I guess what I mean by that is the complexity of a rye whiskey like really starts to shine in these older, you know, slightly older ryes. I think, you know, more different flavors start to come out in these. The complexity, you know, much more, you know, fruity, you know, the mints, the citrus notes, a lot of those things really become more like candied, if that makes sense. And there's just something about a really well-crafted rye whiskey that I've really, over the past couple of years, come to really appreciate much more. And when you get a hold of one of those, you know within a couple seconds, like, hey, this is a really nice rye whiskey. So good job on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. Balancing those two mash bills is really interesting because the 95.5, the mostly rye mash bill really shines earlier in the aging process. And then later, as you get to 7 and 8, I wouldn't say it's not shining anymore, but the 52 starts to really evolve and become, and with that heavier corn mash bill side, really starts to take shape. And it's very, very interesting watching those kind of right around 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, kind of like juxtapose, almost like who's carrying the torch now.
It's really interesting. I mean, that blend, you know, I never really thought about that, but that's the thing. I mean, I think with that, it really allows for the components of each one of those kind of mash bills to really work off of each other and kind of develop even over time. So it's a great idea. I mean, I think, you know, with what it is you guys did with that, you know, so many people are locked into just a mash bill for whatever, whether it's a bourbon or rye. But this, and I think people understanding, you know, that, hey, you know, you're really trying to hit, you know, that market that allows people to enjoy not only sweet, but the spicy factor as well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And I think what these are, I think they make, you know, people who are experienced with whiskey enjoy it. And I think the flip side of that is the people who are new, who maybe don't think they enjoy rye, need to try something like this. You know, start with the, you know, whatever was this, 90 proof, 83, even better for someone.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very approachable. And again, that sweet and spice may really get them in the groove for enjoying a rye whiskey or understanding a little bit more about what it is. So Kelsey was asking in terms of distribution, like what states and where are you guys? Are you anywhere outside of the United States? Are you around the world at all at this point?
Yeah, so we're in about 41 markets, but some of them we don't have the presence. Like, I mean, technically you can special order us in Oregon and you can special order us in Idaho, which people have done. So we've opened them, but we've never sent a shipment to them other than the special order. You know, so it's usually fairly obvious, you know, pretty much Maine through Florida, with the exception of West Virginia, a lot of the Midwest, but not necessarily the plain states, but, you know, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, and then Arizona and the whole Pacific coast other than Oregon, but we're trying to get listed in Oregon next year. So you can always go to our website too. We have a link there called Find Rye. And then outside the U.S., you can find us in Panama, Costa Rica. We got something kind of with the duty frees at the airports there and so forth. And then Japan, China, Philippines, Taiwan, New Zealand, Canada,
wow,
Germany, and UK.
Wow, man, it's pretty. I mean, considering the size of the company and where you guys are, that's pretty damn impressive to be there. All of those places.
But yeah, thank you. You know, but you know, you find the right partner. Like New Zealand's a great example. Like, we're not necessarily going to do volume like
Mhm.
in New Zealand, but we have a partner down there that really understands whiskey, really loves whiskey, really appreciates a brand and a brand
Yeah.
building opportunity, and say, hey, you find the right partner and you kind of jump on it. And so we've been lucky. We found some really great, amazing partners in Germany and in the UK, and the tariffs just got lifted, in Europe. So that's exciting. Hopefully the UK to
Yeah.
follow next, and we can get it priced a little bit more competitively. And then we've been very fortunate to do business in Japan and China, and we've had a fair amount of success actually in both those countries, which has been great. Philippines and Taiwan are a little bit newer for us, and COVID has kind of made things a little bit interesting. The rest of the world has been a little bit slower to come back online, but it's exciting. Our mission statements to inspire a global passion for Maryland rye whiskey. So I don't envision us opening up any more territories anytime soon. Our goal is to kind of like, those are some really good ones. Let's lock it in and start going deeper. So,
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think that's a good transition. Let's talk a little bit about something that's new for you guys. So I'm excited for people to kind of know a little bit more about this particular whiskey. So yeah, why don't you? I'll give you the floor. Let you take it away and explain what you've got right there.
I took this one off the bottling line today, brand new. I could try to get the angle. Bottled in Bond. This will be our first ever 100% Maryland distilled, 100% Maryland aged, full product ever released this Saturday. And so we're super excited about that. It's, kind of our stake in the ground of, we're actually really doing this. We loved MGP. MGP was a great partner. I will never regret working with them, but there is something about building your distillery, bringing it online. And let me tell you, distilleries don't come with instructions. So that was a hell of a experience in itself. And, you can't Amazon Prime whiskey. And so it's like this moment. And I'm so excited for our entire team and everything they've been through over the last 4.5 years to finally be releasing this kind of like stake in the ground for us. And so we're releasing our first ever Bottled in Bond bottle. So this Saturday, we'll do it with our pennies proof at the distillery, 1,200 bottles. And then we have about another 1,800 bottles headed into the marketplace. And it will retail for $59. All your viewers obviously know Bottle and Bond, 1 season, got to be at least 4 years old, 100 proof. They know all those details. So exciting new label. I think it looks really sharp. It's got this cool little hang tag on top. It's really exciting. So pulled that off the line today. Managed to pull you a little sample out of the tank earlier in the week.
It's so good. It reminds me of, and I got this when we were there at the distillery too. There's something that's very honeycomb cereal to me with this. There's that really nice, rich, like a little bit of spice, the honey, and there's that nice grain. There's just something. It's one of the. I love the nose on the thing.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I gotta try this again. So.
Yeah, so we're super pumped up about it. We've been doing we have kind of this loyalty club called the Whiskey Thieves. You can sign up. You're always the first ones to know about anything that we're doing, and we try and invite you to events only. So it's a Whiskey Thief event this weekend. Man. And we started it called Pennies Proof about 3 years ago, when everyone's like, when are you releasing your whiskey? When are you releasing your whiskey? And so we decided to create these these packages of 3 200 milliliter bottles called Sip, Share, and Savor. And we sold it for 1 penny. And our still is, we call her Penny. She's a beautiful copper still. She makes beautiful whiskey. So it's our proof of concept. And so we wanted to show our great loyal supporters, why we are not releasing our whiskey yet, but yet how we do believe it tastes great, even though it's a young whiskey. Though it was a little bit, risky, to release a 2.5-year-old whiskey, and when it's not ready. But we did it 1 year for 2.5 years, last year for 3.5 years, this year with 4.5 years. So you'll still be able to get the 3-pack kind of close out that chapter of Penny's Proof, and then also get a bottled and bond bottle if you get there early enough. No promises overall, but it's a fun thing that we do. It's usually the second weekend of every November, and Penny's Proof Day. And next year we'll start a new chapter with some of the Maryland grain and so forth, and kind of go from there. But it's super exciting weekend for the team and the brand and all the hard work all these folks have put into it. I mean, I work with the most amazing people in the world. It's not even funny. And so this is just, I get kind of choked up a little bit about how excited I am for the weekend.
Yeah. So, that's big. I mean, for what you've been doing up until now, and now this to be, your own baby, so to speak. I mean, there's a lot to be said, about that. I can see why you're, excited and passionate about all of that. I mean, you want to represent, Maryland, and this for you is the stepping stone for that, to continue that journey. And I think that's important. So I'll tell you what, for you guys, if anyone's able to get their hands on the bottle and bond, man, it's so much honey on this. It's ridiculous. There's a lot of honey on this. It's such a nice nose, but man, it's such an easy sipper, and obviously 100 proof on this bad boy.
Yeah. Again, for 50% ABV, it's nice and easy to drink. It doesn't blow the back of your throat out.
No,
like you said, it's a little bit like what's interesting about our products. A lot of times they'll start spice and finish sweet. This one, I almost feel like it flipped its head a little bit, where I'm getting that sweetness, like that honey and the caramel out of the gate so much, and then I get the spice on my cheeks. It's really nice.
Man, that's just easy, so easy to drink. That's one thing with your whiskey. No matter if it's whatever 120 proof or whatever the cask strength is, all the way to the flagship. I mean, they're all easy to drink. I mean, they're obviously more dangerous the higher the proof, of course. But I mean, that I think is where a lot of people struggle with high proof. There's some people that want to enjoy that flavor and complexity, but don't want to get blown away by the ethanol part of it. So you don't have to have super high proof whiskey with that major ethanol burn that people get. And your stuff is a perfect example of that. Like, you can drink all of these really high proof ones, maybe a little longer than you think you can until it catches up to you, but it makes it really enjoyable along the way. So, I mean, that's an important thing with whiskey, is that it doesn't all have to, burn like you're drinking gasoline. So.
No, absolutely. I think, it's a couple things. I think it's a blend of those two mash bills, and then especially at at the distillery in Baltimore, we have a column still 40 feet tall, 19 distillation trays. So you get a super clean distillate, and then we actually run it through 2 additional doublers, right, for like a triple distillation, if you remember, Scott.
Yeah.
Which is quite a bit unique. So it really makes a very clean distillate at the end of the day. And so by the time you get through 19 distillation trays, each one of them in a sense is kind of almost a distillation experience in itself. Really makes a beautiful whiskey. Then through doubler number, we got a 350 gallon doubler number 1, where we'll raise the proof again and polish it. And then we'll send it back through the condensers, and then back through doubler number 2, where for the final distillation run, and we'll end up coming off around 136 proof. Just makes for a really clean whiskey. And like 4.5 years later in the barrel, it still shows up that way.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it does come through clean. I mean, you hate to compare it to like, what they do with vodka in terms of that part of it. But I mean, really, for what you're doing, you're allowing a lot of those flavors to remain, but kind of at the same time eliminating that major ethanol burn that you get in a lot of those high proof whiskeys. So I think that's, kudos to you in terms of the distillation process of creating a whiskey that allows for people to enjoy a really nice high proof whiskey and still have all those flavors remain without them just being stripped out of there.
Yeah, and unlike vodka, we don't go much above 136, 137. So we get those ester oils and all those things that we want in there that create so many of the great flavors that, interact so well with the wood. So exactly.
Yeah, like sweet and savory. That's a really nice way to put it, I would say. So, all right. So, geez, man, we're already almost an hour in. If you don't mind, I guess let's talk a little bit about, maybe the future of Sagamore, kind of how things are looking, maybe some things coming outside of what you've got going on Saturday. If there's anything you want to, share with us that, maybe we don't know about.
Yeah. So we got some, I mean, it's hard to think like that there's more. Like, I mean, for us, it's just like, Jesus, Bottle and Bond is a pretty good moment. But like, but at the same time, there's always something in the pipeline, right? And so we actually have a really cool project coming, which will be distillery only release, but our rye whiskey finished in layered apple brandy barrels. So that'll be kind of fun. And then, we do a Sagamore Reserve, right? The Calvados finish, the port finish, the Manhattan finish, the tequila finish. This year, the 8-year-old, we actually decided not to do a finish for a bit there, just kind of pause for a minute. So in the spring, we'll have a rum finish. So we'll have a rye finish in rum barrels. We've been working on for that for a little while. And then it's looking like, no, you never know. There's no guarantees. The Calvados didn't release when it was supposed to, and we've had others that we had to push out. But if things track accordingly, we'll also have in the fall, this time next year, we'll have a sherry finish release. So those are two exciting things, small distillery exclusive. And then our Barrel Select program is going to be going from right now, it's 110 proof, 100 all 6-year-old rye whiskey. Starting in 2022, it'll be all 7-year-old rye whiskey. So slowly pushing that age gate out, which is really exciting. So that's been a really very, very fun program. So things we're focusing on is slowly blending in our aged whiskey, then kind of that reserve series, and then trying to bring people, again, some added value. Our 6-year-old Barrel Select retails usually for around $60. The 7-year-old next year, unfortunately, due to one being older and two, just we got hit with a 23% increase on glass cost this year, and all these things are just starting to take its toll. So that'll be $79. But I think still for 110 plus proof whiskey, 7 years old rye, it's still pretty darn good value at the end of the day for a small guy.
And that's the thing I was going to say. I think for your price points for what this is, I think it's right there. I think it's perfect. It's not something you look at and think, oh man, that's really expensive or it's cheap or anything like that. I think you just have kind of nailed that price point like perfectly. I think it's just a really comfortable area for what it is that people are getting, whether it's finished or the 8-year or now the Bottle and Bond. What was the Bottle and Bond going to retail for?
$59.
Yeah. See, that's a great price point. Considering the whiskey market nowadays, and that price point has become so much more of a median type of price point than it was, even a few years back, where people thought, oh my God, $60 for a whiskey, who would pay that? But nowadays, it almost starts with, that $100 price point in terms of what people think of as the, I don't know what you want to call it, like the luxury, not really luxury whiskey or the high end whiskey or whatever. But there's so many bottles nowadays that are, at or well above that $100 price point, that for you guys to come in with what that is at that price point, that's, again, kudos to you guys for, I think, making things approachable and, still providing a fantastic whiskey.
Well, thank you. And like, kind of give you an idea too, like a lot of people, even when it comes to the rye grain itself, we pay about $11 a bushel, whereas corn, we don't even pay $3 a bushel. So you kind of just think about those. And, we're doing everything we can, and we feel pretty confident. There shouldn't be really any increases next year. But man, when you get hit by 23% increase on your glass, your corks coming in from Portugal, shipping everything now cross country on a truck just costs more. I worry about where things are going. Making sure that everybody can hold price. And that's our main focus for 2022 is doing everything we can to make sure we continue to do our best to hold the pricing we have, and keep Signature as close to 39 and Double Oak at 59 and Cask Strength. We fight hard every day, although some markets have gotten a little away from us, but we're working really hard to get that to 59. So that's kind of our focus every day when we go out, is just making sure, I don't know. I'd like to think of it as like you're kind of saying, like affordable luxury almost, that's just kind of what we would like to think, is like, I'd like to kind of make sure we can continue to stay there. Someday we might have something that's kind of crazy price, but it should justify itself still. Like I get pricing out there, whether it's Handy or whatever it may be, Old Carter, Kentucky Owl, those things make sense to me. You get priced right, those things make sense to me. And we'd like to continue to hold back stock and kind of do something like that down the road as well. But it's got to make sense.
Yeah. And I think you guys are doing a fantastic job with that. I mean, to keep those prices for what this is at that, I mean, great job on that. I mean, I think it's price friendly for us to be able to enjoy a great whiskey and, not have to necessarily break the bank. So to answer Steve's question, yes, it's great. Go buy it. Simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, I saw another one in there, like overseas container freight. We were at one point paying $1,100 for a container. And then they wanted to hit us for most recent quote was 17,000.
Really?
It's like, we just won't ship it. It doesn't make sense.
God. No. Yeah. I mean, how does that even make sense? It makes no sense at all. You can't even wrap your head around that.
No, it's just, it'll work itself out, but you can't support that either. I hate to say it, there's times where you have to do it, but I don't know. It's just like, if it keeps like, okay, we'll do it. They'll be like, oh, people are willing to pay it. And it's like,
that's true.
Will it ever come back down? And you kind of got to push back on the system a little bit to make sure things come back to where they belong. And otherwise we're all going to take a huge hit.
Yeah. They're going to test, they're going to see who wants it badly. But the problem is when enough people start dipping their toe in the water and paying those prices, it's bad for economics, period. I think those people paying those prices, that reeks of desperation is what that is. But anyway, well, here you go. You got John, who's willing to move the Double Oak into the bunker category. So that's pretty big. So John was saying he bought his first Double Oak last week. After my first tasting, it moved to my bunker list. So
I could take that one of two ways. If if all hell hits the fan, you only get to take so many whiskeys to a bunker.
I think that's a good. I think that's a good way. I think anybody who's willing to bunker a whiskey means that they enjoy it to the point where they don't ever want to run out of it. So,
all right, that's awesome. Thank you for that.
So, all right, so we're a little over an hour. If anybody wants to get in, so again, we're doing the Cask Strength and the Double Oak tonight. So if anybody wants in, we'll stick around for another 5 minutes or so. Get in the super chats, and that'll get you entered into winning one or the other. So tonight we'll do it a little bit different. I'll give the option to whoever is chosen first to decide whether or not they want the Cask Strength or the Double Oak, just to give the first winner an option. So, and thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this is fun. So thanks for having me on, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Hopefully you smash that like button for Scott. And again, this is so cool, so fun. And if you're ever down at the distillery, ask for BT. I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, you'll have a good time at the distillery. I mean, where it is, I mean, the grounds, all of that, beautiful place. And I guess I'll say this. So this is a little bit of a kind of a tipping the tipping the hand. We kind of announced a little bit of it not that long ago, but we may or may not have been able to participate in the Sagamore barrel program. So I don't know if I'll confirm that or not with anybody, but that may or may not be coming down the road in 2022. That'll be for everybody to see at a later date, possibly. So you might have a really good rye whiskey coming. You might not. So we'll see how that goes. But maybe you can read between the lines a little bit there. And then another thing we're also considering is possibly next summer. I mean, as good a time as we had and the grounds that are there, it's so conducive to getting people together. So if it's something where, and again, it doesn't have to just be part of the whiskey club or anything, it'll be probably just in general. But if there's people who would be interested in a meetup at Sagamore, we'll put a little something together. I mean, obviously all the details can come, but I think it would be a really nice time considering where it is, the whiskey. We can get some food stuff put together, all of that. So if you guys would be interested in that, feel free to reach out to me, and we'd be happy to put a little something together, possibly next summer, and just have a nice meetup out there at the distillery. So
we'd love to host you.
Right there on the water, man. It's a beautiful setting. So
bring in some music, some cocktails at the cocktail lounge. We got a 1909 whiskey bar. Let me know. We'll set you up. We'll do it right.
It's all set up. It's such a conducive area for having a good old time that I think everybody would really, really appreciate it. So if, again, we'll chat about this through the winter and try to get something set up and do all that, but I think it would be an absolute blast. So all right, I think we had a couple more things come in here. I know Hendo popped back in looking for more good whiskey, apparently. Cliffy, how's it going, buddy? Good to see you. I'll be watching the replay, loving what Sagamore is doing. Yep, as am I. Garrett, what's Gary say? Yep, so it looks like you got somebody who's going to hit you up. Looks like Gary Franchi may be looking for you at the distillery. He's going to hunt you down.
All right, Gary. The password is my bourbon journey. My bourbon journey.
Yeah, there you go. That's the password. Yeah, it'll get you in trouble right there. Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, here you go. Okay, so the Turks. One of these two will probably win tonight because they literally win everything. But Katie says, cheers all. The finishing series is great. Ethan's go-to cigar whiskey is the Double Oak. Can't wait for M&J pick at some point. So I said that in the review, and I think that's one of those whiskeys. It's really nice in terms of the complexity of that Double Oak that really allows you to, I think, enjoy both components of the tobacco and the whiskey. There's just enough in both of them to allow each one to shine, where you don't have one overshadowing the other. So that was kind of my thoughts as well with that Double Oak. If you're a cigar person at all, I think that's a nice little pairing. So yeah, JG says the password is 12345. much simpler. That my bourbon journey guy. And I don't know about
that's
that.
Good. That's really good.
Okay, so let's see. We'll wrap it up. We'll let Brian go here. So why don't we do this? We got maybe another minute. If anybody wants in, fire away, and we'll do that. So Adriana, if you don't mind, maybe starting to get. We gotta hang on a second. We got a special guest. You're gonna like this. Come here. Hang on.
Oh my God. Get out. That's incredible.
Got the old little Sagamore shirt out there.
It fits well too. That's good. That's like a good fit.
Of course, the wife had to dress the little guy up. Poor little guy. So he goes through a bunch of stuff. But oh man. All right, so we're kind of at that time. So all right, Adriana, let me know how many people participated tonight, and then I'll have Brian give us a couple numbers, and you can pull pull some winners, and we'll give the first person who's chosen the option of the double oaked or the cask strength rye, whichever one you want. We'll get that out to you. All right, so yeah, I bet Saturday. So I guess while we wait, Saturday's got to be a big day for you. I mean, that's kind of the little bit of the baby coming home from the hospital moment, a little bit in the whiskey world, so to speak.
Yeah. So pretty much everybody has to be at the distillery between 5 and 6 in the morning. We'll be setting up all day Friday, and it's such an exciting time. It's always a bummer that we can't satisfy everybody and get everybody what they need, but it's the support is overwhelming and it's incredible, and so it's just it's fantastic.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, man. I'm super excited for you guys and what you've got going on, and just the visit and knowing some of the other things that you guys have going on. It's going to be really fun to watch the evolution of Sagamore. I know that. So okay, so we got 41 entries tonight. So why don't you between 1 and 41, why don't you hit me with a number, and we'll have Adriana pull that and see who the winner is tonight for the first bottle. All right, what number do you got for me? You want to give me one, Brian?
Oh, I'm giving you one?
Yeah, yeah, you give me. I'll have you give both numbers so nobody thinks there's any shenanigans going on. So what's your first
one
number?
I gotta do 3 for 3 diamonds.
Okay, 3. Number 3, Adriana, who do we have as number 3? It's always a little bit of the lever moment of watching the wheel spin, like when you're in Vegas or something. Everything is hoping to get all the ching, 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 ching. These are always fun to do. I think.
Drum roll, please.
Oh man, we really got a bot in here tonight. A little spammer going on here.
I blame myself for that.
No, I don't think it has anything to do. If there's anyone who understands going to Vegas, it's Cliff Bourbon Bites. He's got another whiskey channel. He's out that way, and I know he's there all the time. All right, Gary Franchi, the man who's going to come and visit you.
I could hand deliver it to him.
There you go. You probably could just hand deliver it. You could probably hand deliver it. So maybe you guys can. Okay, so it looks like Gary wants the cask strength. So we can definitely make that happen. So I think whenever he visits, if BT's around, then you can coordinate. And again, Gary, if you want to send me the address, and I guess if you guys want to coordinate something, that's perfectly fine. Or if you're going to be at the distillery, then that's perfectly fine. I'll let you guys kind of decide on that part of it. So Gary is in for the cask strength. So okay, so the next number, what do you got for the next number between 1 and 41?
I will go 29.
All right, Adriana, who do you got? 29. I'm sure it'll be one of the Turks. They win literally everything.
Good on them.
They are
shopping right here.
They're very generous. A lot of times they're very good about when they do win things. And again, not to like make them do this, but a lot of times when they win, because they win so often, they just give their picks to other people.
Oh my God. The world's a better place because of them.
They are. It's exactly it. So they're actually going to be participating the first part of December in another pick we're doing down in Kentucky. So that'll be a lot of fun too. So
that's very cool.
All right, who do we got? Whiskey Food Dude. You got the double oak. So congratulations. I don't know if you're in here or not anymore, but if you are, shoot me an email at mybourbonjourney01@gmail.com, and we'll make sure to get that stuff sent off to you. So yeah, just shoot me an email, mybourbonjourney01@gmail.com. So we'll make sure to get get that stuff sent off. There you go. There's the email and all that. So I guess first and foremost, I have to say, thank you to you for joining, a couple weeks ago. Thank you for all of that and having us out there at the distillery. Absolutely, incredible experience overall. So, and that was the reason I wanted to get on and do this right away, was to really give people a good understanding about, if you haven't had it and maybe what you're missing out. But, I'm glad to see that there's a lot of people that are really on board with Sagamore. That makes me, pretty excited to see there's a lot of people who are truly enjoying, what it is that you guys are doing, and rightfully so. So, congratulations and thanks for really everything that you're doing as part of the whiskey industry.
Again, I'd actually like to thank you and everybody tuning in. This kind of goes back to, something I stumbled upon 20 months ago, and I can't stop watching. I don't watch TV anymore or anything. I love tuning into this group and this society and this community of people. And I've learned so much, and I've laughed a lot too. And it's a really amazing thing. And I love the way everybody supports each other. And I think that's just what, whiskey's kind of about at the end of the day. Back in the day, it was always like, you drink whiskey by yourself in a corner of a dark bar somewhere. It's like, no, whiskey is meant to be celebrated with friends and family. And
it really is.
And this is a great way to do it as well. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to come in here and ramble. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and appreciate all the support very much. So thank you.
Well, thanks for everything. I appreciate it. So, all right, guys. Hey, thanks everybody who was participating tonight, watched all of that. Greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you got a little something out of this. It kind of shed a little more light on Sagamore Spirit. I mean, I think it's something that needs to be done, and just get the stuff out there a little bit more, shine that light on some companies that really truly deserve, all of that. So, all right. So we'll be back next week. I forget exactly right now what I've got planned for next week. I've got something. I got a million things going on, it seems like, all the time, but it'll definitely be something. But Brian, thank you so much again. I appreciate, you coming on tonight. Everybody in the chat, thanks again. Everyone who participated. Adriana, thank you so much again for hanging in there and keeping track of all the super chats. Greatly appreciate it. So, all right, guys, thanks again. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Cheers.